All right, good morning. Thank you so much for joining me. I am super excited to share with you guys some tips for managing your low carb days as you get started in the CHISELED program. If you have questions, feel free to post them in the chat feature or send them to me via email or post on the group page so that way I can be sure that I cover them, if not through this call, excuse me, later on today. So a few things that I wanted to touch on is, you guys started today or yesterday with eating at your carb depletion macros. And so depending on what ratios I set for you, it was roughly about 40% protein, 20% carbs, and 40% fats. And so for this week, the schedule goes Monday through Friday. And then Saturday, you'll have your refeed day, your high carb day, and then Sunday you'll go back to those carb depletion numbers. So just keep that in mind. And we're doing this to maximize fat burn by forcing your body to burn calories from fat stores as opposed to carbs that are usually more readily available. You guys will feel it in the workouts this week on those low carb days. So I wanted to share with you some tips on how to survive this first week because, let's be honest, the first few days on a low carb or on a carb cycling plan can be difficult. And so just know that is totally normal. I just want you to power through, drink lots of water, and just work to maintain that proper mindset of you are going to benefit from this and that it's worth it. So every Saturday, we're going to eat at high carb day or refeed day macros. And so those are typically, again, depending on the percentages I sent to you, roughly about 40 to 50% carbs, lowered protein, and lowered fats. And so those are going to be, that day is going to be paired with a leg day, a leg workout day, or a full body day. Please do not skip this day, regardless of if you, fell off during the week or, didn't hit all your numbers during the week. It's super important that we do that to spark your metabolism and reset those fat burning hormones for the next carb depletion cycle. So I know many of you will want to skip it, but I really encourage you not to, and to just eat at that higher intake and get ready for the next week. It really helps to maximize your insulin sensitivity, and that sets up those metabolic triggers to properly, get ready for the next carb depletion carb depletion schedule for the following week. So don't skip it. A few of you have asked about moving your refeed day or like that workout. That's totally fine. You can move it to a Sunday or a Friday if that's possible. But I really encourage you to try to get at least 5 days in a row at carb depletion numbers before you have that refeed day. It's not a hard fast rule, but it's just a good idea. Okay, so some carb depletion tips that I wanted to touch on. Food sensitivities have been the biggest thing that I see from my clients when they get into a carb cycling routine, is that they realize that certain foods affect them in certain ways that they didn't notice before. And so when you're starting to track your macros, you might eat the same foods every day just because you know that they always fit. And then on your high carb days or on your refeed days, you have a donut or you have a cupcake or whatever, dinner out. And so you might notice that on those days, you might feel uncomfortable dealing with stomach issues, bloating, water retention, that kind of stuff. And so it happens because we're eliminating those foods for a certain period of time in our week. And so our stomachs develop that sensitivity to those foods once they're added back in. So I really recommend on those high carb days, yes, you can definitely fit in treats. That's totally fine. But aim first to incorporate the same types of carbs that you were having on your carb depletion days, just in larger portions. So I also recommend rotating your food sources throughout the week on those lower carb days. Obviously, if you can fit a cupcake in, awesome, but most of us can't, unfortunately. But you know, whether it's dining out or something like that, it can really help avoid those food sensitivities from developing. So keep that in mind. So some low carb tips that I wanted to touch on as we get started this week. You know, that's the biggest struggle that I see with most clients in the first week or two. And so I wanted to make sure that you guys have some, you know, a go-to list of what you can do to make this easier. So the first thing is making sure that you're entering, that you're pre-planning your meals in MyFitnessPal. If you can, plan them the night before. I will typically take, I don't know, like 10 minutes the night, you know, before I go to bed, and plan what fits, what meals I'm going to have the next day to make it fit those low carb macros. And then in the morning, that way, all I have to do is just make sure that, you know, those meals are ready to go, or that like it's just stuff that I can throw together, which is typically like my my MO. But that extra time really guarantees that you'll feel less stressed and more likely to hit your goals. I hear too often, you know, women will be standing in the kitchen trying to figure out what fits their numbers. So don't. I really encourage you not to do that and to try to get ahead of it and plan it ahead of time if at all possible. Another thing too is that, you know, you guys know what's in your kitchen. So if you plan the night before, hey, I'm going to have, you know, XYZ tomorrow, and then get into your kitchen and realize that your husband has taken the last of the chicken, or the kids, you know, have taken the last yogurt or whatever. It's super easy to make those smaller changes as opposed to trying to plan out a whole day the morning of. The second tip I wanted to share is having some simple go-to snacks on hand. So snacking is where the carbs can sneak in very easily. And so just be sure to have plenty of low-carb snacks on hand on these days this week and throughout the rest of the program. So think, keep it super simple. Think almonds, walnuts, raw veggies, so carrots, celery, tomatoes, that kind of stuff. Beef jerky is one of my favorites, especially with two crazy kids. It's easy to just like grab some beef jerky, and it's a quick high protein snack. Hard-boiled eggs also are a great option to keep on hand. I'm lazy and I just buy the bagged ones that are already boiled. Obviously, it's not very cost effective, but it works. So definitely consider adding those. And having those high protein, low carb snacks ready to go will help you in terms of not having to think about, you know, what do I eat? What am I eating between meals? And often I hear that because we're practicing an intermittent fasting protocol, a lot of times we're not used to having, you know, a high calorie meal when, you know, at noon or 11 a.m. And so if you have those snacks on hand, it makes it a little bit easier to hit your protein goal and hit your fat goal without feeling overly full at every meal. So definitely keep that in mind. So, you know, again, having those 2 or 3 larger meals can be great, but if you find that you're just feeling lethargic after, you know, that first big meal, definitely start to add in some of those snacks just to help alleviate that. Make sure that you're drinking lots of water instead of, reaching for some, a soda or a tea. Make sure that you're drinking plenty of water. It goes a long way in saving off cravings and, of course, helping keep you dehydrated and alleviate any soreness you might be dealing with from the workouts. Another thing is varying your protein sources. So I get super lazy, and on my low carb days, they can get boring when you're eating chicken with every meal. So try to add in some different kinds, fish, pork, beef, Adels, I don't know how to pronounce it. The Adels, the chicken apple sausage, is amazing, and it's a great way to hit your protein and your fats and no carbs. So consider picking up those. And so those are just an easy, just making those little changes can help in terms of breaking the monotony, especially as we get into further along in the program, and you might be just tired of eating chicken all the time. Don't be afraid to branch out. The last thing that I wanted to touch on regarding making it easier to hit your low carb days is focusing on healthy fats. Ladies, we have been trained for years that low fat, low fat, low fat. And the thing is, fats are super important to us. They help with our hormones. They help keep us fuller longer between meals. So don't try to keep your fats low. You're only going to be hungry, and it's only going to mess you up in the long run. So focus on getting those healthy fats in on our carb depletion days. So if you're finding that you're reaching your calorie goal, but maybe lacking in fats, don't focus on the calories. Instead, focus on hitting those fat goals. So I think high-fat options are, a salmon, again, nuts, almonds, walnuts, avocados. I love bulletproof coffee, so coconut oil or MCT oil and Real Deal butter is a great option to help you hit your fats while keeping your carbs low. So just some options to help you guys, or some suggestions to help you guys get through those low carb days. And if you guys have questions specifically on what types of snacks or what I recommend, definitely just ask, and I can post a list. Another thing I wanted to share on today's call was, what to kind of expect this week in terms of your energy levels, hunger, that kind of stuff. I want to be clear. I do not encourage you to starve. So if you're hungry, definitely eat. But I do want to encourage you to recognize that that don't always trust that you're hungry. Don't always trust those hunger hormones. And so I'm talking about recognizing that that levels of hunger, hunger hormone called ghrelin, they rise when we're losing weight. And so it's sort of a built-in survival mechanism since our bodies don't know the difference between voluntary food restriction, which is what we're doing, and famine. So it's trying to prevent you from starving to death. But one thing's for sure, when you've got these raging hunger hormones going, it makes it really hard to stay on track. So to combat this, think about including protein and fat and fiber at every meal. Someone had asked yesterday about tracking non-starchy vegetables. You don't have to. I like to make sure that I'm hitting my fiber intake. I really recommend trying to get, anywhere between 25 to 30 grams of fiber a day to help keep everything moving. And so, but proteins, fats, and fiber at every meal, each of those are shown to boost satiety and help you to feel fuller longer. Make sure that you're getting enough sleep. yes, you might think that, you're starving all day, or why are you so hungry today? A lot of times it's lack of sleep. Adequate sleep is a super important component of this program. Getting too little sleep really has shown to increase your appetite and boost those cravings for those sugary, fatty foods, which is, kind of a comfort thing. So definitely keep that in mind. Make sure that you're drinking plenty of water again, and kind of taking a step back that, am I really hungry, or am I thirsty? Or what did my last meal look like? Oh, okay, it was really high in protein, but not enough fats. Keeping those things in mind. In terms of building your meals for the day, so we kind of touched on pre-planning your meals, the morning of or the night before, for the day. But in order to build your meals within MyFitnessPal, I sent you guys in your program guide, there's a menu and a recipe list that, are kind of my go-tos for the program. They're really easy to fit in within the templates. But you also have the freedom to create your own meals based on the portion sizes of each macro as well. So I really encourage you to look through the portion sizes to add variety to your daily eating. And it's, like I said, it's easy also some days it's just easier also to just have chicken and sweet potato and call it a day. But throughout the program, I'm going to share with you some more recipes that can be worked in. I'm also going to include in today's email with the replay some flexible dieting hacks. Kind of some tips and tricks for helping you create recipes in MyFitnessPal, and that way you're not standing there in the kitchen trying to figure out what fits, because that's the worst, especially when you're hungry. Okay. A few questions I wanted to address that I've received. Alcohol. Ideally, I want you to cut out alcohol for this time period, but I'm also a realist, and so instead, try to plan, if you're going to have cocktails, try to plan those drinks on your refeed day when you've got a little bit higher carb intake to make those alcoholic beverages fit. I'll also post a quick little screenshot of how to track those macros for any cocktails. I was also asked about protein bars, and unfortunately, no. Packaged bars are a great option for when we're on the go and, don't have time to pick up something else. But a lot of times, they're filled with way too many fillers and unknowns. So I would just say, just stick with simple snacks that you can throw in a Ziploc bag and call it a day. Dairy. If you're dairy-free or lactose intolerant, that there might be some meals listed or snacks listed that have dairy included, and those count as servings of fat. So if you're, limiting your dairy intake, I would just swap out that serving of fat for a different snack that's listed on the menu. Obviously that doesn't include dairy. Energy. Oh my gosh, this is a big one. So expect to feel kind of blah and brain fog, or feel like you've got brain fog, probably by like tomorrow or Thursday, due to that low carb intake and the workout. I want you to push through this feeling. It will not last. I promise. Your body will adjust. And once you get to Saturday, you'll be able to have that high carb day, and you're going to feel tons better, get that energy back. Like I said, it doesn't stay. So next week, you're not going to feel the same way. You're going to feel better. So just push through this first week. let's see, we talked about tracking. I also like to just, when you're tracking your macros, I just think it gives us a good snapshot in terms of how certain foods affect us, like I mentioned earlier about the food sensitivities. So it's just important to see, how certain macronutrients also affect you. So you might start to notice that, hey, on my high carb days, like I love it in terms of being able to eat, a bigger food variety, but carbs make me really tired. Or on my low carb days, I feel really full on high fats. So it's just something to kind of keep in mind. So that way, as we progress through the program and after the program ends, to maintain, you can think about, okay, I fared better on a low carb, high fat plan, or vice versa. So just something to keep in mind. Okay, ladies, I hope that I have covered everything. If you have specific questions that I didn't get to, definitely hit me up. Let me know via email or text or Facebook Messenger, or post in the group page. And then I will send out this replay along with the notes and the flexible dieting tips and tricks cheat sheet, and then also to track your alcohol macros. All right, you ladies have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you soon. Bye.